Is cancel culture ruining art? After writing a forthright blog about her views on gender identity, the artist Jess de Wahls has been accused of being a transphobe for years. Recently, her critics hunted her down and she was cancelled, and then uncancelled. She joins SpectatorTV now to tell her story. Jess, you've been through quite an ordeal. Can you start by explaining what happened?
Well, I have been, cancelled and uncancelled, really, by the Royal Academy lately, which was just the culmination, really, of what has been more or less a 2-year witch hunt of myself since I've wrote a blog post, a lengthy blog post, sort of outlining my thoughts on gender identity, ideology, how I feel that impacts feminism, how it impacts, language, how it impacts freedom of expression and all such things. And as an artist, how it impacts me, and as a woman, of course. And ever since I published that in 2019, I had a bit of a anti-fan club who's been using anything at their disposal to try and hijack any work collaboration that I've been doing, anything at all, really. Like, they would have preferred if I would just basically disappear from the face of the earth, I guess. And so this ended in this extraordinary situation where somebody found out that the Royal Academy stocked some of my merchandise, some of my embroidery patches, which they have done for more than a year, but they found it out now because I have a sneaky suspicion that someone basically joined my Patreon, because that was the only place where I shared this. And literally a day later is when this online campaign mounted against me once again, tagging all the places that stock my patches, saying, how can you associate with this transphobic person? You should be ashamed of yourself, yada, yada. And one of the biggest accounts was the Royal Academy. And then on cue, within a day, I got an email from them saying that they had eight complaints against me from the general public. Well, it wasn't. It was a group of embroiderers, no less, online who had basically encouraged their followers to go and complain. 8 people, and they need to investigate this because they stand with the LGBTQ community. I told them, so do I. This is a concerted effort to try and shut me up, has been for a long time, and I don't think that it's a good idea to drag this into the public, because I could bring many more than 8 people to explain to them what my position is, and that it isn't based in hatred, that it isn't anti-trans or any of the things that these people say. And then I didn't hear back for another, 2 days. But the day in between, I found out that they had, via social media, essentially dumped me, thanking those who brought to their attention my misdeeds, my misgivings, and they will no longer stock this transphobic artist. And it was horrific. So
you first found out through social media. They didn't tell you?
They did not. They only then got very worried, I suppose, because I also then went to social media, because it just felt like, what else is my recourse? I had done in the meantime, I went to the police, because this kind of bullying campaign that has been going on for so long, it felt for the better part like there's nothing much I can do, because a lot of the perpetrators are based in the States or based in Canada and stuff. And so there's not much, what do you do, you know? But this time it was a woman who is an embroiderer who was based in London. And I thought, okay, well, there has to be something. There has to be some sort of recourse. Went to the police. Turns out there really isn't much of a recourse. And it was super frustrating. And then I went to social media, reposted the screenshot of the Royal Academy saying, this is where we're at. Then I left social media because it was just super depressing, again, that something so big had happened. And and then I woke up to an inbox full of journalists asking to interview me, because it suddenly had gone completely huge.
And was it only after the media attention that the Royal Academy apologised to you? Because they did apologise in the end, but was it only after the pressure from the public?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they went completely into lockdown mode for, I think, 5 or 6 days. I mean, unheard of, apparently. I spoke to so many journalists in the meantime. their press office just shut down completely. Any, like, you know, the Times did the first interview, and Janice Turner tried to contact the press office. No, like, they just didn't respond anymore. They went completely silent for 5 days. So.
Do you think it's, I mean, you know, it's incredible because there's a head of the Royal Academy who apologised to you. So do you think that the whole thing was just ill thought through, and there was some junior social media manager maybe saw the pressure on social media and just took the decision? Or do you think it was actually a consistent thing that the organisation has thought about?
I don't think they thought about this. In fact, I don't think most organizations have thought this through. I think a lot of people think this is just the sort of, you know, because the continuous mantra is, you know, don't be on the wrong side of history, just be kind, all this sort of stuff. It's represented as though people with my view, which is, I would posit, probably the majority of of the general public, which in and of itself doesn't mean I'm right. And I'm always happy to be challenged. But I would say that the way that people try and present my view as a controversial one is very deliberate. And so I think a lot of people haven't thought this through at all. Because I was in the same situation 2 years ago when I still had a little salon on the side in Soho Theatre. And the same thing happened after I published the blog. They got mounted with social media pressure by, you know, keyboard warriors. And they also had never thought about this. So I genuinely think that there's a huge problem in most organizations at this point, because a lot of this ideology has flooded in from the universities. It's unsupervised because, you know, like the older generation kind of thinks, oh, they know better about social media and all this. And they just go and do their thing, you know? And so, no, I think it was extremely rushed. And then speaking to them on the phone, because I did speak to them, even though they didn't speak to the press anymore, because they got really flustered and went like, oh, it's gone mainstream. And like, no. Joke. Yeah, well, it has. Of course it has.
Let's talk about those views that you mentioned. Can you tell us what you wrote in your blog from 2019?
Well, so I mean, it's a very long blog. It's like a 5,000 word blog because I've spent a long time thinking about this. But to encapsulate, it's basically stating what my views are on words, the meaning of words, how I understand what a woman is, that it's an adult human female, that it's not an identity, it's not something I believe anyone can identify as. I think you can identify with, but that's a different thing because you are the sex that you're born in. That's what I've been writing about. And this whole idea that we should encourage people to just go along with this mantra, trans women are women, trans men are men. It's just not true. That's just not true. And I've had so many conversations now also with journalists where they try to put it as though this is an opinion. That's not an opinion. That's a scientific fact. I didn't make that up. And so far, I mean, sure, science also changes once we know new things. But as far as I'm aware, this is what the state of affairs is. I've been looking long and wide because it would have made my life much easier if I would have found scientific proof for those assertions, which there just isn't. And I had a million conversations. So that's what I put into that blog, that it really worries me. This thought policing really worries me. The degrading of language worries me. The towing the party line as an artist. If I can't explore certain things that are important to me, why bother making art? I don't do it just for the decorative purposes. I do it to be able to sort of work through things that concern me and all this kind of stuff. So if I can't do that anymore because immediately I will be called a bigot or a transphobe or I want all people dead, that just doesn't work. So I put all of that into the blog. I said I find it increasingly concerning that the trans rights activism that I've been witnessing is incredibly sexist, it's very homophobic, and it's really quite violent when you look at, there's like a website where this has been collected. It's called turfisaslur.com. And I hadn't even known when I started looking into all this was what TERF means, which is trans exclusionary radical feminist. And again, there's so many labels. Like, I'm just Jess, those are my views, and I felt like I need to make a position because I come from such a sort of like liberal arts background, and people suddenly felt all betrayed by me going, hang on a minute, this doesn't make sense, and unless you can make it sense for me, this doesn't work for me, and I will call it out.
So to clarify then, do you think that it is possible for someone to be trans, or you think it's not even possible for trans? Are you saying that essentially that they are deluded that in believing that they could be a different gender?
Well, so I don't believe in gender, right? So I understand that to be transsexuals, which is someone who wishes to present as though they are the other sex. And most of the times, those that I've spoken to who share my views, they call themselves transsexuals, not transgender. Because again, gender is this idea, and this is where my feminist background comes in. Gender is this idea that there's certain behaviors that women do and that men do, and so therefore to me that's really sexist. Like, if anything, I'm a gender abolitionist. I don't, just because I'm a woman, I shouldn't have to do certain things. Just because someone is a man, they shouldn't have to do certain things, wear certain things, that's the problem with it. So the idea that you identify as the other gender, what does that even mean other than a sexist stereotype? And I have yet to come across a coherent explanation of what that means without using sexist stereotypes. So I don't think they're deluded. I don't think they're deluded. I just think that to demand that I see them, because I see this often really conflated, that I see them as though someone who's born a man now says he's a woman, that I should then look at that person and go, okay, yeah, you're a woman. I can see how someone would want to express themselves differently. Fine to me. But now seeing that this whole thing has become so ideological, I even struggle with this whole, you need to call me this, you need to call me that. No, I don't need to do that.
And I think what's often missed from these discussions with you, as you mentioned, so many journalists have talked to you, is actually that you grow up in a household which is not gender conforming. You write about your father in your blog from 2019, and you can see pictures of him here. And he's clearly not what we typically think a man should dress like, but he doesn't identify as transgender himself.
He does not, no. But according to Stonewall, he would be transgender, because Stonewall's definition of transgender lumps in anybody from cross-dresser to the whole, and no, he doesn't. He's literally, like Eddie Izzard used to say, those are not clothes, those are not women clothes, they're my clothes. And that I find so refreshing, because that is exactly what I would salute anyone in doing, not adhering to those sexist stereotypes, just wear whatever you want and do, dress, whatever makes you happy. But that isn't what that is. That isn't what we're talking about, And so, yeah, my dad likes to wear heels and put on makeup and nails. I don't have nails. My dad, yeah, he loves doing it. He loves doing it. But he thinks of himself as a paradise bird. I think he likes to challenge the gender stereotypes by doing this in particular also. He likes to walk around like that in general because he likes the look of it. But I think there's part of him that likes to challenge what, I think he quite enjoys when people look and go, what?
And the point is that as a man, he can do that without being a woman. And as a woman, you might not want to have nails and big breasts, and you can still be a woman. And that's the point, isn't it?
Well, exactly, that's the point.
Yeah, and Jess, since this entire ordeal, your orders have gone through the roof. You do embroidery, but some of them are of what you call big swinging ovaries, which in this day and age people might think is transphobic. So where can viewers get their hands on some?
Oh, they're still, they have to have a lot of patience for now.
You've got a big waiting list.
I've got a big waiting list. I've had to employ people to help me with this. And even with that, we have such a backlog because the demand has just shot through the roof. I've got someone sitting in my studio right now fulfilling orders. And then, of course, there's the commission. Because I do commission work. This is what I used to do. The merchandise was on the side that I could subsidize my art career. So now it's just gone. I've got a waiting list for commissions. I've sold all my big artworks, all my small stuff. So yeah, it's gone. Yeah, on my website. And if anyone wants to know about new artwork, they're gonna have to subscribe to my mailing list or my Patreon.
Well, clearly people are voting with their wallets, and
they really have. Yeah.